I'm Andrea Wallace, and my research is on copyright, cultural heritage, and the public domain. I'm especially interested in how the general public accesses the public domain, given that most of the objects that are of cultural value are unique, they're held by cultural institutions, they can be either problematic or somewhat sensitive to certain issues, and especially extending access to those works. So they need to be protected. But at the same time, they contain an extensive amount of knowledge, and they're supposed to be used within the rationale of the public domain to generate new knowledge and new cultural goods. So I look at how access is extended to public domain works, both on-site and online. And I'm especially interested in the online environment and the new rights that might arise during the digitization of a cultural work. So more recently, I've been looking at online collections and how cultural institutions extend access to the digital surrogates of the works that they have in their collection. And I'm especially interested in whether institutions claim copyright in those works, whether they're sufficiently original in order to attract a new copyright, and what happens when institutions disclaim copyright and they step away and they actually enable the public to reuse the digital content that they make based off of the works in their collection. Because there's an incredible amount of opportunity to generate new knowledge, to make new cultural goods, either for commercial value or just for fun and for play. So there's a lot of cultural engagement in the online environment that can actually be inhibited by the fact that there are intellectual property rights claimed in the public domain works. So a digital surrogate is a digitized version of a material work. So for example, the Mona Lisa. If we go to the Louvre, we would have to pay an £11 or €11 fee in order to access the Louvre and to get inside to be able to view the Mona Lisa. If you take a photograph inside the Louvre, any photograph that you take, because of the Louvre's visiting photography restrictions, will be limited to only private use ones outside of the museum. So how is an everyday member of the public supposed to get an image of the Mona Lisa in order to use it, either for research purposes, for making a new work, for playing around with, for putting it on the side of a bag? How is the general public supposed to get access to this work? Well, a lot of people would turn to Google Images to try to get an image through the website itself, but all of these images will have some sort of kind of dubious copyright claim over them. So if we only have one work that's somewhere that people are able to access in order to generate a reproduction and reuse the public domain around that, how are we able to get access to that digital surrogate? How are we able to reuse it as envisioned by the public domain if the cultural institution restricts access to the physical object, but then also to the digital surrogates of that object and how they're making them available online? In order to have a copyright in something, we must reach a threshold of originality, which can be defined differently by different jurisdictions. In the EU, it's the author's own intellectual creation. So if a photograph of a work is an author's own intellectual creation, then there should be a copyright in that. However, the types of photography that are made around material objects in order to produce a digital surrogate, those types of photographs are produced according to kind of a rigorous set of criteria about taking the image from the front on, how it should be lit, what type of digital technologies are used, because they're trying to create a true and authentic reproduction of the work so that it is representative of the work. There's very little opportunity to make the types of creative choices that might be made in other types of photography. So there's an argument that the copyright that's claimed in the work isn't valid. However, we don't have a lot of court cases around that because not many people would take someone to court in order to kind of pursue that claim. But on the other hand, so long as copyright is claimed in the work, it chills reuse of that photography. So it prevents people from using the photograph to generate new narratives around the work, or even just play with it, or use it to create a commercial product. And if it's not original, then we should be making sure that other people have access to it, because that's what the public domain is for. It's our collective cultural content. We need to be able to access it according to the purpose that cultural institutions exist for, which is to generate new knowledge.